Predator Badlands is the ninth entry into the Predator franchise, and it's directed by Dan Trachtenberg. This is the same director that gave us Prey, which was a Predator prequel film that came out in 2022, and he gave us Predator Killer of Killers, which was an animated Predator film that came out earlier this year. So when I heard he was making another live-action Predator film, well, I got all kinds of excited, and I had to put this movie on my top 10 most anticipated movies list of 2025, because I've been a fan of this franchise ever since I was 13 years old, and I picked up that original 1987 Predator film on VHS for the first time, slid it into the VCR, and watched Arnold and a bunch of other badass commandos go one-on-one with the Predator. And like most franchises, there have been hits and misses in this franchise along the way. I'm not the biggest fan of Danny Glover versus the Predator in Predator 2, but I absolutely love Predators, where they grab a bunch of elite killers from Earth, transport them to another planet where they have to go against different tribes in the Predator universe. One of the biggest things I absolutely love about that Predators film from 2010 was that it introduced not only different variations of the Predator, but that they could be at war with each other. Something that this film, Predator Badlands, really dives into, and we'll get into all that in my review. But I was so excited to sit down and watch this on opening weekend. I got to watch it with a couple of coworkers of mine because I am on a work trip. I am in a hotel right now. As you can see, the background behind me is not my awesome movie theater background. It is a hotel background, but you gotta record when you have the time. So I am sorry about the background in this video, but we will be back to my normal background very soon. And with all that out of the way, let's jump into my review for Predator Badlands.
Here we go.
That is one big pile of shit.
No, I shot him. Bullets in the fall killed him.
So Predator Badlands dives headfirst into world building within this Predator universe, and we get an inside look at the species known as the Yautja. That's of course the monstrous aliens that we've been following throughout this franchise. When our movie opens up, we're introduced to a Yautja named Dek, and Dek is the smallest in his clan. He is the weakest because he is the smallest, and we're introduced to a really fun opening scene where he goes one-on-one with his brother, and they fight inside of a cave, and you find out that he's just a little slower than his brother, but he has that never give up attitude that the Yautja have displayed throughout the films. But that doesn't matter to Dek and his brother's dad. His dad comes in and immediately says he's not cut out for this. In fact, we can't have any weak links. You need to kill him. And so he orders his brother to kill Dek, and as his brother goes for the killing blow, he decides to spare Dek's life, send him into a spaceship, send that spaceship off to a very dangerous planet where Dek can prove himself by killing the most dominant species on that planet and bring it back to his father. And none of this sits well with Dek's father, who feels like he's just been betrayed by Dek's brother, so he goes into a fight with him, ultimately cutting off his arm and beheading Dek's brother, showing Dek the head of his brother as Dek's flight is sent into orbit. Dek then crash lands his ship on this extremely dangerous planet that he's been sent to and starts his hunt for the biggest predator on this planet so that he can slay it, take it back to his father, and prove that he belonged in this clan all along. And while Dek is on his hunt, he's not just going to run into elements and monsters from this planet, but he's also going to run into the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, who has sent a bunch of synth robots to this planet to extract the same species that Dek is there to kill and claim for his own. And before getting to this dangerous species that Dek is hunting, known as the Kalisk, he runs into one of these Weyland-Yutani robots named Thea, played by Elle Fanning. And you find out that Thea got separated from the rest of the synth robots when they were attacked by this Kalisk. She lost her legs, and at first Dek wants absolutely nothing to do with her because predators hunt alone. They go out on their own, they kill on their own, they prove that they are the most dominant species completely on their own. But after a little bit of convincing from Thea that she could be used as a tool to help find this Kalisk, well, they decide to partner up and go look for the Callisk together. And all of that leads to Deck going one-on-one with this unbeatable monster known as the Callisk, as Deck tries to win the approval of not only his father, but his entire Yautja clan back home. And that is the best synopsis that I can give you for Predator Badlands. If that sounds like a fun time, well, this movie is currently playing in theaters, and I would highly recommend that you check it out. If you're a big fan of action movies, or if you're a big fan of the Predator franchise, I think there's a lot to love in this movie. Now, I'm going to get into my positives and my negatives here in a second, but before I do that, if this is the first time you found my channel, well, I would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button, check out all the different content that I have. Whether you like movie reviews, Blu-ray talk, or even ranked list videos, I've got a little bit of everything on my channel, and I'd love for you guys to check it out. All right, let's get into my positives and my negatives for Predator Badlands.
You're the prey.
My first positive for this movie is going to be the action being both fun and brutal throughout the entire movie. And I was a little worried about that going into this film because it is rated PG-13, the first Predator film to not be rated R, and I was worried that they were watering down the action. But as it turns out, if you don't have humans that are dying or humans that are bleeding within a Predator film, well, then you can rate it PG-13, but you can still have a ton of really fun and really brutal action throughout this movie, and that's what you get. Because if you're wanting a ton of action in a Predator film, this movie has so much of it. From the opening scene where Deck and his brother go one-on-one with each other, or moving on from there and you have Deck going into this extremely dangerous planet, taking on so many different species, trying to be the dominant life force on this planet, trying to kill the Callisk, which is the dominant life force on this planet right now. You also have Deck going one-on-one with so many Weyland-Yutani synth robots throughout this movie, where he's destroying them, crushing their heads, and again, no blood, so they could do that PG-13 rating. So as an action junkie myself, I had a ton of fun with the action throughout this film. My next positive in this movie is going to be the story feeling fresh and feeling unique within this Predator universe. And I think that's really special when you get to the 9th entry in a franchise where you can mix it up a bit. Of course, the traditional setting for a Predator film is that the Predator is the antagonist going after a human somewhere, whether it's the original Predator film where you've got the Predator going up against Arnold and his crew of commandos. Of course, they're the good guys in that story, or even very recently with Prey, where the Predator goes to Native Americans, takes their tribe on, and ultimately is killed by the human protagonist of that movie. But what this movie does is it flips that on its head, and it says we're going to follow this Yautja, this Predator named Deck, as the good guy or the protagonist of this movie. He is going to go through this very dangerous planet, killing all of these different monsters, and we're actually going to be on his side. And I think flipping that story, changing it up a bit, really made it feel fresh for me, and I want to see more entries in this franchise just like this. My next positive is really exploring that Yautja culture, really expanding the Predator universe beyond just, well, this is the Predator, he's a badass, and he's gonna go up against somebody. Just like the story feeling fresh, I love that they explored the culture of this Yautja tribe, how there's a hierarchy in this tribe, something that's been hinted at throughout the films like Predators from 2010, where you've got different warring tribes in that movie, even though you're still following the storyline of the humans, or in Predator Killer of Killers, where you've got all of these different humans who go through these battles on Earth, and when they win their battles, they're automatically transported to this ultimate arena where you see all of these different Yautjas and all of these different kinds of Yautjas throughout the film. And I'm an absolute sucker for world building, especially in a franchise that I already love. When you can expand the universe, I think that's a big deal, and when you can expand the lore on a character that's been loved since 1987, I think that's a big deal too. My next positive is the amount of laughs and emotions that they're able to bring to a Predator film, something that I think is lacking in a lot of Predator films that we've gotten in the past. Usually it's just about these badass people versus a badass Predator, and there might be a joke or two here or there. However, in this film, not only do they bring you a good amount of laughs, but they also bring you a good amount of emotion as Deck tries to navigate his way through this very dangerous planet with a couple of unlikely companions. You've never seen a Predator with a companion before, and I don't think that'll work for everybody, but for me, I enjoyed the laughs that it gave me along the way, and I enjoyed the emotional bond that Deck was able to have with this synth robot and another companion that I'm going to leave out of this review because I don't want to spoil anything. And my final positive for this movie is them continuing to build build the Alien universe while they're building the Predator universe. When Alien Romulus came out last year, I absolutely loved that film. I want more films in the Alien franchise. And then we got Alien Earth this year, which did a lot of world building for the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, for the Xenomorph, and I really enjoyed that as well. But now you're getting another Predator film, and we're incorporating Weyland-Yutani, which just brings us one step closer to them finally doing an Alien versus Predator film that I actually enjoy, because I'm not a big fan of the AVP movies. There's some action scenes in those movies that are fine, but overall I'm not a big fan of the plot lines of those films. So if they are able to put together some sort of an Alien versus Predator movie where we can see a Yautja versus a Xenomorph, well, that would be so much fun, and I loved how they were able to build that into this film. It never felt shoehorned to me, and it never felt like it was too much just being put into that film, and I really appreciated that. It felt like just the right amount of world building for Weyland-Yutani and the Xenomorph universe while we were in the middle of a Predator movie. That'll do it for my positives. Now we have to get over to my negatives, and my first negative for this movie is that the character of Dak speaks way too much for my liking. Now, I know that's a bit of a contradiction because I enjoyed the laughs in this movie and I enjoyed the emotion in this movie, and you couldn't have had that emotion or those laughs throughout this film without Dak communicating with the synth robot or with his alien friend that he makes in this movie. You couldn't have had all of that emotion between him and his brother if they didn't have a conversation at the beginning of this movie, but I just don't know if I was ready to hear the Predator speak for an entire film. Traditionally in the past, the Predator goes after a human that can't understand it anyway, and the Predator is slowly learning what that human does. He'll record the human, you'll hear it play back, but you'll never hear the Predator speak. And so that kind of caught me off guard in this movie. And I don't know if this is something that will stay a negative in the future or if it'll go away when I watch this movie again. I don't know if this is something that I'm going to harp on more later on. This might be something that completely goes away. And I'm like, you know what? I enjoyed him speaking in this movie. It made sense for this film. And if we are going to get into more Predator versus Predator action films in the future, well, we are going to need to know that there's a way for them to communicate with each other. So it's just very different from what I'm used to. So right now I have it in my negatives because it was just kind of jarring to see the Predator having these full conversations that I could understand, but I understand why it was in the movie. And that'll lead to my other negative in this movie, and that is that I missed the Predator having a bunch of high-tech weapons. Don't get me wrong, he does have some in this film, and they do explain away why a bunch of that stuff is stripped away from him. For instance, his claw that would normally come out, that gets broken at the beginning of the movie. When he crash lands on the planet, his ship is destroyed, destroying a ton of his high-tech weapons. What he doesn't take with him ends up being stolen by a bunch of the robot synths that are in the film, and they end up using a lot of his weapons, but the Predator himself does not go out using a bunch of his weapons. And I guess that bothered me because the last live-action Predator film that we got, Prey, was set so long ago that the Predator's technology was also set so long ago. And that was cool in that movie, but again, with this movie being set in the future, I was like, all right, now we're going to see a Predator at 100%. We're going to see that giant cannon on his shoulder. We're going to see him with that bomb on his arm, but you don't really get to see that because so much of it gets destroyed throughout the movie. And again, I'm not saying that I don't understand why they went this direction, why they stripped down Dak to basically nothing, having a sword with him, going up against all these things to try and prove himself, to build that character up to us, to make him have to get these different companions to go with him because he didn't have all of his tech that a Predator normally has. So I understand why it was in the story, but in the next Predator film, I want to see a Predator maxed out at full potential with his armor, his invisibility, with the cannon. I want all of that. And if I can compare this negative to anyone to explain myself a little bit further, it's really cool to see Bone Claw Wolverine in a Wolverine film because we have so many movies where Wolverine has adamantium running through his body and down his claws, so that in one or two movies when that Bone Claw Wolverine is there, when the adamantium has been stripped off and he just has the claws once again, it's a really cool thing to see. But in the next movie, I want adamantium back on Wolverine's claws. I hope that makes sense. That's kind of where I'm going with this. In the next movie, I want the Predator at 100%. I want to follow Dak again, but this time with his invisibility cloak. I want to see him with that cannon on his shoulder. I want to see him at 100%. Overall, I had a great time with Predator Badlands. It's a film I would highly recommend to action fans, to Predator fans. It's not my favorite entry into the franchise. That still sits with the 1987 classic Predator film, from, but I did have a great time with this movie and I would recommend it to everyone. But guys, as always, those are just my opinions because that's my review for Predator Badlands. Have you guys had a chance to see this film yet? If you have, let me know in that comment section down below. Let me know what you liked or didn't like, where we agree or disagree. I love hearing from you guys. And finally, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright guys, we get to the end of my Predator Badlands review. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it. Once again, I will apologize for the background of this video not being my traditional basement background. This time it's a hotel room. If this is the first time you found me, I promise you it doesn't always look like this. The quality of my videos are a little bit better when I'm at home. But with that said, if you want to check out any of the other content on my channel, well, I've got all of my best and worst of 2025 right there. And I've got all of my 2025 movie reviews right there.